The draft is just over a week away, so for the first video on the channel today, I'm going to be doing a mock draft. Now, this isn't necessarily what I think is going to happen. This is more what I would do with the teams and what I would pick at each pick based on my knowledge of all of the players. And now I'm not claiming I'm an expert, but I know a lot. I've watched a lot of college film, and I've also watched a lot of experts talking, and this is how I think this draft is going to shape out. Now, I am doing no trades, so I do think there's going to be a lot of trades in this draft, but this is basically if every team were to draft right where they are right now with no trades. So I'm going to kind of fly through the first couple picks because I think we all know Joe Burrow's going number one. An incredible senior season boosted his stock, and he's clear consensus number one. I've seen some people saying, should they try and leverage the Redskins if they know the Redskins really want Chase Young, try and leverage them and try and get something out of them, saying that they're going to take him, but I think it's just going to be an easy Joe Burrow. No matter what the news comes out, that's the easy number one. Number two, Chase Young. He's a generational player, man. He's incredible. He had an incredible season. There's a couple weaknesses that you can see in him, but not really many, and his size will make up for a lot of that. And he looks like he's a pro-ready. Probably one of the front runners for Defensive Rookie of the Year, honestly, if we're looking at it. And then number three, now this is where a trade could easily happen if there's a team really looking at Herbert or Tua and they want to jump up. But like I said, there's no trade, so if I'm sitting here at the Lions, they're not really needing a quarterback. There's some really good athletes and tackles on the board, but I think after moving on from Slay, their cornerback room is really weak, and they're going to take the best corner in the draft and a really good corner from out of even the last couple drafts. He's one of the best. Jeffrey Okudah from Ohio State, they're going to take him. He played really well in the playoffs. Or their playoff game, I should say, made a couple big plays and showed why he should be the number 3 overall pick. Now we go into the Giants. The Giants could really go one place. They're going to go tackle. I think all the tackles are on the board. The only other players I would say are even on the board still this high that they even be thinking about are quarterback, which they're definitely not going to get because they have Daniel Jones. So it's really either Isaiah Simmons, Derek Brown, or a lineman. So I think they're going to go lineman. My favorite lineman out of this draft, I think, is also going to go first, is Tristan Wirfs out of Iowa. He looks like the most pro-ready. He can come in. He's got all the technique and size that you could want, and he looks like he's going to be a great pro. Next up, Dolphins. Now, this is where I'm going to deviate. A lot of people have the Dolphins taking Tua. There's a whole tank for Tua. The Dolphins were in love with him, but I think with this whole coronavirus outbreak, I think a lot of teams are going to look away from Tua maybe because they don't know about his physicals or anything. They haven't been able to meet him, and I think the Dolphins are an organization that are in the rough right now, and they don't want to take that risk. So I still have them grabbing quarterback. However, I have them going Justin Herbert at number 5 overall. I think that Justin Herbert is a safer bet than Tua, although Tua may have more upside. Justin Herbert has all the size and everything you want in a quarterback, lots of pro comparisons to like a Carson Wentz. You saw some in the Rose Bowl that they played. He made some incredible plays on his feet, and you see just that playmaking that he has that I think separates him, and I just think there's a lot of question marks around Tua. But as saying all that, the Chargers here, I think are going to make a move for Tua. I think they might have not been thinking necessarily quarterback. They might have been thinking draft a later one because they supposedly want to go with Tyrod. As much as I believe that, I don't know. But I think that they're going to sit here and see Tua on the board, and they're not going to be able to pass on Tua right here. Now, this is another spot where I could see another team jumping up. Maybe if the Chargers want to trade back, if they really aren't in love with Tua, and another team is. But I'm still going to have the pick here as Tua. I think he's going to go to the Chargers, and they're going to have their new quarterback for moving to L.A. Next pick is the Panthers. I think the Panthers could go a lot of places, but I think they're really going to go best player available, and that's either Isaiah Simmons or Derek Brown. And Isaiah Simmons is not as much of a need, even though they do need linebackers. It's still a big need with Kuechly retiring, but I think that Derek Brown is the best player available on the board at this point, and I think they're going to take Derek Brown and shore up that D-line because they don't really have a lot there right now. Next up, we got the Cardinals. Now, the Cardinals kind of made it obvious in the offseason what they're going to do. They traded for their receiver, shored that up. Now the next step is protecting Kyler Murray. So that's why I think they're going to take the second best tackle on the board, and that's Mekhi Becton out of Louisville. The dude's just a big beast, and I think he's going to be really good there, and he's going to be the next one off the board. Next, going into Jacksonville, It's another situation kind of like the Panthers. They don't need a quarterback. They're not going to push for one. They like Minshew. They're going to see what they got there. So they're going to go best player available. And you got some tackles sitting there like Thomas and Jedrick Wills. But I don't think they really need a tackle that bad. That's not a main priority. I think they want to shore up this defense cause it's crazy. If you look at the Jaguars, they've lost almost every single player from that defense that went to the AFC Championship a couple years ago. The only player left, I'm pretty sure, is Miles Jack and technically Ngakoue, but he probably won't be there much longer. So I'm going to have him taking Isaiah Simmons, maybe the best athlete, one of the most versatile players in the draft. He's an incredible athlete, and he's going to make some plays for the Jaguars, and that's going to be a great pick for them there at 9. So moving on to 10, the Browns. This is a pretty easy pick. The Browns need a tackle. And there's 2 on the board that could be interesting, Wills and Thomas. Now, this is really just whichever one they fall in love more with. I'm a bigger fan of Jedrick Wills. I like his tape out of Alabama more, so I'm going to pick him here over Andrew Thomas. That was pretty obvious. Now, going on to the Jets, this is where it gets interesting because they can go one of 2 ways. They need a receiver really bad, and all of the top receivers are on the board. But their GM is Joe Douglas, who comes from Howie Roseman, and his whole philosophy is to build up the lines. He's even said it in many times. He said that he wants to build through the O-line and D-line. And I think that they're going to actually take a tackle here, even though wide receivers, all of them are there. This is another prime spot where if a team like the Broncos, Cowboys, Eagles, Vikings, Patriots, any of these teams that really want a receiver, want to trade up, there's another prime spot for them to trade up and get that one. Maybe even a Broncos moving up 4 picks to go ahead and get one. But I think that if they don't trade the pick, then they're going to take Andrew Thomas and show up that line. It might shock some people. Jets fans might get kind of mad with all his options on the board. But I just think that's what Joe Douglas, that's the kind of person he is, and that's how he wants to build this team. So I think that's what he's going to do. Now we're going to speed through these next couple. These are all just receivers. It's all just fit and where they want to go mostly. I think a lot of people have been liking CeeDee Lamb. I'm a big fan of Jerry Jeudy and his tape, and I think he's the best receiver in this draft, but a lot of people can fall in love with CeeDee Lamb and his playmaking ability, and I think the Raiders are going to fall in love with that playmaking ability. They're going to take CeeDee Lamb here at 12, and then join right off their back, Kyle Shanahan and the Niners. I think they're really between the 2 Bama receivers. It's between Jeudy and Ruggs, whichever one they like more there, and they have someone right now. They have a Goodwin, and they have a different receivers that have a lot of speed, so I think they're going to look at the route running of Jerry Jeudy and find him I'm not comparing him to Emmanuel Sanders, but to fill that role that Emmanuel Sanders had. So I think they're going to take Jerry Jeudy here. And then it's interesting when you get to the Buccaneers, because if you look at every other mock draft, they have a tackle going here, and I have all the tackles that I would really push this high in the draft off the board. If we're looking at the next best tackles, we're going all the way down to here to Isaiah Wilson, and then actually my next top tackle is Josh Jones out of Houston. But I think it's a bit too early, and I don't think the Buccaneers are going to be that needy to fill it. So this is another prime trade back spot, but another play that I think would really interest them is Javon Kinlaw. Pair him up there in the inside with Vita Vea, and I think that's going to be a nasty D-line. So I have them going Javon Kinlaw at pick 14, and then when we get to 15, the Broncos, there's really 2-horse race at this pick between Henry Ruggs and CJ Henderson. They need both positions, and really what it came down to me was they just got Drew Lock, and I think they're going to do everything they can to build around Drew Lock and make him as successful as possible, because especially if you're someone like John Elway, you've missed on a lot of quarterbacks, and I think he wants to look good at this quarterback, so he's going to put as much around him so that he can shine and be the best that he can be. So that's why I'm have them taking Henry Ruggs here at 15. Moving on to 16, we have the Falcons. Now, this is another team that could go a couple of ways, but I think when you have someone like CJ Henderson still on the board here, that's a no-brainer. You got to take CJ Henderson, second best corner in the draft. You can't pass up on that, especially with a weak cornerback room like they have. The Cowboys, now, this is an interesting one because they could go really a lot of places. Corner, receiver, edge rusher, safety, O-line. Travis Frederick just retired, so I don't think there's any interior O-lineman really worth this high. I don't think either of the safeties are coming off the board at this time either. So I have them going Chasen right here from LSU. They're getting some pressure off the edge. They obviously lost Robert Quinn and Michael Bennett, their edge rushers, so someone else to pair up against with Tank Lawrence is going to be perfect for them to be able to get as much pressure on the quarterback as they can. Moving on to pick 18 here for the Dolphins. This was a hard pick. I really didn't know where to go here. There's a couple options. I think they could either push for a tackle like Josh Jones, or they could get a safety in Xavier McKinney. And what I ended up doing is I ended up going Josh Jones. I think that tackle is a very important position. I think they're going to push up for a tackle and protect their quarterback in Justin Herbert that they just drafted. I think they want to get as much protection for him as they can. And then the Raiders here, back on the clock. We already drafted with them. We already got them CeeDee Lamb, so they got the receiver figured out. So now we're looking at any D-line corners or anything that can help them there. So we're actually going to take, I think, the second best corner off the board, and it's none of these guys. My second best corner I have out of Alabama. They really got him far down here. Trayvon Diggs I have as my second best corner in the draft. I really like his film and what he has, and I think Alabama's gonna draft him right there. Alabama's gonna draft him. My bad. The Raiders are gonna draft him out of Alabama. There we go. I think you can always bet on Alabama players to be good professional athletes, and they are usually solid coming out, and you don't have much of a learning curve with them because of what Saban does in Alabama, and I think that's going to be great for them. The only thing that I could see them going a couple other places because you saw last year they love their Clemson players, that I could easily see an A.J. Terrell or Terrell, I don't know how you pronounce it, but I think his draft stock fell because he kind of got beat by Jamar Chase in the national championship, but I don't think we should really hold that against him because Jamar Chase is also one of, if not the best receiver in college that year, and Diggs did a pretty good job. Sorry, not Diggs. Terrell did a pretty good job of covering him up most of the game, so I could easily see that being an option, but I think it's one of those two. As much as I like Christian Fulton and Jeff Gladney, I think those two are the top picks. And speak of those top picks, we're going with the Jaguars next pick. I do think they're also going to go corner, and I have them taking A.J. Terrell. And like I said, for everything I just said, I think that a lot of teams still like him, and I think he's honestly one of the top corners in this draft. Now, this is my favorite team, the Eagles. I honestly don't think the Eagles will be picking at 21. I think they're going to make a move up. And there have been rumors if one of the O-linemen they like or D-linemen they really like fall to them. And I took that into account. But if you're looking at the board, there's no one I could really see them drafting. You know, someone like Yetur Gross-Matos. I could see them maybe make a push for them. Cesar Ruiz, I could see him maybe. But other than that, I think when you have someone like Justin Jefferson in their weakness, and I think it's pretty consensus, a lot of people believe that that's what they're going. I have them going Justin Jefferson. Like I said, I don't think they'll actually be picking there, but if they do, I think Justin Jefferson will be the pick. Now the Vikings is the next pick, and they're another corner-needy team, and I have a lot of corners going off the board. I think it's going to be one of those things where once the corners start going, they all go really fast. It always happens in draft with a position or so. If you remember, what was it, 3 years ago, with the draft with Corey Davis, John Ross, and Mike Williams. Once the first receiver went, they all just went. No one thought they would all go that high. Now, this is obviously later in the round, but I think a similar thing could happen with corners here. And I have them going Christian Fulton out of LSU. I think he's going to be a good fit there, and obviously you saw a lot of his film. He played a lot in big games, and I think that the Vikings are going to like that for a team that's ready to compete for a championship. Now, moving on to the Patriots, there's receivers position they could go, and there's really good receivers still on the board like Denzel Mims and Jalen Reagor, but I don't think they're going to force to push for a receiver. Now, I've been hearing a lot of reports that they really like Stidham, and that shied me away from a quarterback a lot, but in the end, I think that Bill Belichick wants to get a quarterback. And I think that as much as I like Stidham, they're kind of overhyping him up. And if you have someone like Jordan Love sitting here on the board, I think that the Patriots can't pass that up, and I think the Patriots are going to draft Jordan Love here. Now, Patriots are another team. I don't know if they're going to be drafting at 23, whether they move forwards or backwards or trade for another player. I don't think they're actually going to be picking there, but if they are, I think Jordan Love is going to be the pick. I just think that as much as they love Stidham, a quarterback like Jordan Love will improve that team so much, and I don't think they're trying to rebuild. They want to win now. And Jordan Love is a quarterback that can grow into a franchise quarterback, I believe, so that would be a good pick for them right there. Now, Saints, this is really a pick that comes down to, I think, linebacker, and I think Patrick Queen is the pick. There's not really much to say about that. They don't have many holes, the Saints, but linebacker is definitely one of those holes, and Patrick Queen's a really good linebacker that could fill that hole that they have. Now back up to the Vikings. Last time we had them taking a corner and Christian Fulton, and this time we're going to have them taking Denzel Mims, which really sucks for some teams that were hoping they could snag him in the second round, but I think Denzel Mims can be an incredible Pro Bowl caliber player, and I think the Vikings are going to take a chance on that after shipping Stephon Diggs out. They have a hole at wide receiver, and I think they're going to fill that with Denzel Mims here. The only other places I could really see them going are really either I could see them taking an edge rusher in Gross Matos or Epenesa, but really I see receiver as their main priority, and that's either Rieger or Mims, and I have Mims as the higher ceiling receiver, and I think he's just a better receiver than Rieger, honestly, as much as I like Rieger. Now, sitting into the Dolphins, I'm going to have them taking who was an option last time that still is on the board now, Xavier McKinney. I think he's the best safety in the draft. He's going to come off the board here now. He might not have the most upside. A lot of Grant Delpit's film from his sophomore season was very good, and that made me think that I think Grant Delpit might be the better player, but Xavier McKinney looked like the more polished player. Didn't have a down season, had an up season unlike Delpit, and I think he's going to go off the board as a first safety, falling to 26, which is actually pretty low. But sometimes drafts are weird and stuff like that happens. So next we're going up to the Seahawks. The Seahawks is another pick that was kind of hard, but I think especially with Jadeveon Clowney leaving, if he is still leaving, he hasn't signed anywhere yet. So maybe I have to change this if he resigns, but I don't think he's going to resign. So I have them taking Yetur Gross-Matos to kind of replace him and be that edge rusher, because honestly without Jadeveon Clowney they really don't have anything at the edge rusher, and even though they have a couple other positions of need, I think edge is the most. Then going on to the Ravens, they're another team that really doesn't have a lot of holes. You know, maybe if one of the top receivers was on there, maybe they're a team that trade up for a receiver, but I don't think that Jalen Rieger intrigues them enough here. I think that they'll wait and get someone like a Brandon Ayuk or something in the second round, or maybe see if a KJ Hamler falls to them, or trade up in the second round for him. But here I think if they're sitting on the board at 28 with people still left on the board, they're not going to draft a running back, I don't think. Safety doesn't make sense. I mean, I could maybe see a safety after Eric Weddle retired, but still not really seeing it. So I'm going to take Kenneth Murray here at linebacker. That's one of their biggest needs, and I think Kenneth Murray is a linebacker that could fill in there and play really well in their system. I think he had a good year at Oklahoma. It kind of got overshadowed by Oklahoma's just bad defense in general, but he's a great athlete, and I think he can play almost anywhere and be a really good player. Backing out to the end of the draft, we have the Titans, and I've kind of struggled with the Titans. They're a team that's kind of hard to decide what they're going to do. I've been looking at someone like AJ Epenesa, maybe a tackle to replace they just lost Conklin, or maybe a corner to shore up that defense across from Adoree Jackson. But I think how I look at it is you got Derrick Henry on the franchise tag, and you just paid Ryan Tannehill tons of money. I think they're going to try and replace Conklin and get that old line back together. So making sure I'm not missing any linemen, I'm going to go with Isaiah Wilson at Georgia as the pick for them. Make sure they shore up that old line and keep that pound and ground game going, honestly. I think that's what they're going to keep doing. The Packers here. Packers are another team that it's kind of hard to kind of figure out where they're going, because receiver and tight end, it says, are their top two needs, but there's no one really there with taking maybe Jalen Rieger I could see going here. I don't think there's any tight ends worth picking in the first 3 rounds. Honestly, it's a really weak tight end class, so I don't see them going any tight end. Interior D line, I'm not seeing anyone that I think is first round worthy. So that leads me to go to corner. And that makes me look at Jeff Gladney, who I think would be a really interesting choice. I think he's a really good corner, and he's a plug-and-play guy. So I think that they're going to go Jeff Gladney with this pick. It might not be the best pick, but I think if they're sitting there, that's who they have to pick. They might trade out. That might be a good decision because there's no one I feel like too intriguing there, but that's probably the best player on the board at a position that they could use. Now the Niners are back up on the board here. And I think they're going to take... This is one of my favorite corners in the draft. I don't know how to say his name. Noah Igbinojin. However you say his name. Cornerback out of Auburn. I really like him. I think he's going to go there. They need a corner, and he'd be a great fit there. And I think he's rising up on a lot of boards right now, and don't be surprised if he goes in the first round. And the last pick of the draft, the Chiefs. This is where I have my first running back coming off the board. I'm going to pick DeAndre Swift. I think that they could really use a playmaker like that. You saw Damian Williams do good, but like imagine if they had someone even better to pair up with Mahomes. Like you saw their offense was completely different with Kareem Hunt there. So I think they're going to get a playmaker to put next to Mahomes and just make that offense even more dangerous. And so some of the notable players that didn't even go are one of the most notable, I would say, is really Grant Delpit, and I think he'll go early second. I think he just had a bad senior season. He's going to fall because of that, but I still think he's going to be a really good player. Anyway, though, let me know what you guys would change, what you guys think about it. This is my first one. I'll probably do another one before the draft, and then after the draft I'll go over, see what I liked and didn't like about the picks, and hopefully you guys will stay, subscribe to the channel. I got a lot more stuff coming, different projects and different film analysis stuff that I'm going to be doing for the NFL. I know it's a hard time right now, a lot of boring stuff, so I'll be trying to get some content out so everyone can get some stuff to watch and get back in the football groove, because we're hoping it's coming back this season. Thank you guys for watching. Enjoy and have a good day.